prepared, oh my gosh, I prepared diligently, and I have bounced in the red for the last, it's like hitting the treetops. You're in a paraglider or something, and you just can't seem to get the lift, and pretty soon you hit the treetops, and you're fighting every way you can to have a controlled landing. Maybe a controlled implosion would be a better description. At any rate, I put phenomenal effort into preparing for this, and I don't see how in the world someone else. I have made austere cuts, and I don't see how a family with even one child could go through what I'm going through and have lived on the benefits. Now, granted, if you parents with dependent children are always going to receive more aid, and they should, than someone in my position. The only distinction I can claim is senior status, which that absolutely description makes me cringe. That at any rate, you can't change the facts, but. And just because you're a senior that's wrong to have an entitlement mentality for that. And seniors have a horrible entitlement mentality, absolutely one of the worst. Anyway, I can only sum it up this way by saying that if you have good health, you by all rights, my God, by all rights should be supporting yourself standing on your own 2 feet. Now the key is do we have a government that enacts policies conducive to economic growth so there's going to be jobs for people who want to work like me? And the answer is hell no. That's what's got to change. 6 months. It's been 6 months. That's the longest time period I've ever gone without work, and it just hasn't happened. I think that the way the internet is set up, and it's like I said back in my job fair video, employers are running ads for employees they have no intention of ever hiring. They don't want to, these corporations don't want to look bad. Anyway, back to what I was saying a moment ago. I don't see how in this world, when we first came to this area in 1971, and when I say we, it was my grandmother, my aunt, my mother, a cousin, and us 5 kids, 9 people. Abject poverty. And I remember so many things about it, and there's so many things I readily admit I don't remember about it. I was 12 years old, so a child is going to block out the worst of how life is like that. I don't remember us having as hard a time. If I was, what I'm saying is, if I had 9 people and my grandmother led the way, and it wasn't long that we all, after we moved here, that the family broke up, and my aunt and her son went their way, my grandmother went her way, we went our way, and I just remember, I don't see how I could do it now. I know the good Lord would pave a way somehow. I've made extreme cuts. The whole point of this dissertation is that this has got to be far worse than any of us are really imagining. There's got to be, I'm convinced of that. By the way, since the benefits have ended, I've already received some food aid. I am not eligible. This blows my mind. I am not eligible for any EBT. That absolutely, I can't even fathom that. Zero. And And one thing they take into account is the value of the car you're driving. I think it's $6,000. If it's worth over $6,000, they reduce how much you would be eligible for anyway. This is astonishing. That's all because the food stamp program in this country is in absolutely dire straits. Absolutely dire straits. And a lot of states, I'm not even sure about Texas, has a 3-month limit. That if you get 3 months worth of food stamps, and even if you hadn't found a job, you're expected to either go begging to food banks and churches or just starve to death. And I can't even get it. I can't even put it into words. I don't have the eloquent vocabulary to describe how bad I believe things are. I know you hear a lot about Venezuela, and a lot of these really pessimistic contrarians say that, one day we'll be like that. I don't know. I hope not. I pray to God that we're not ever like that. But here's what I do believe. I believe some parts of the country will be like that, and I believe inner cities, there's going to be big inner cities. I wouldn't live in a big city. No way. No way. As a matter of fact, I don't even want to venture into big cities from here on out. From here on out, right now, EBT cards are a lot of them are not working. I was watching the internet last night about that. I'd heard about it, so I decided to look it up, and the problem is evidently far more widespread than I thought. It looks regional to me, which is very suspicious. Very suspicious. But I've heard different assessments of desperation, levels of desperation, of where you get when you go without food. There's somebody who's floating around. A big word these days is 9 days, I think. When I was probably 11 years old, and I'm going to wrap it up with this. We were going to church on a regular basis, and they distributed tracts, or there was a rack in the foyer that you could pick whatever interested you and read them, and some of them very interesting. Anyway, there was one called 12 Meals. This was in the 1960s. It was called 12 Meals to Damnation. Now, I'm not going to get religious. This channel is not about religion. But the tracts had a very interesting point, which is backed up by what's being said today, and that is 12 meals. By the time you've missed your 12th meal, you're ready to kill for food. They're saying it's either 9 meals or 9 days. I can't remember which is the popular, what's going around now. This thing could flare up into a supernova if the food situation were to ever get anywhere like Venezuela in this country, because the police are so hardcore crackdown in those nations. You have despotism in those nations, and that's what's happening right now with Maduro. He's using food to crush political opposition. In this country, with all the people that own guns, I can see bad things happening. I honestly don't have any advice to give anybody hasn't already been said a million times over. As far as preparing, I can only say prepare with all your strength and all your might and all the discipline you can muster up, because it's going to get. I'm afraid it's going to get worse. I'm afraid it's going to get a lot worse for me. But as a nation, it's going to be bad, and your survival is going to depend on a great deal of how you prepared food-wise, weapon-wise, network-wise, but most of all, how you've prepared spiritually to get through this, because it's only the good Lord that's going to guide His elect through this. So, you know, the only thing I'm going to say, and this ain't religious, talk to God. That's all I'm going to say. However you conceive Him, talk to God and ask Him to help you and all of us through this time. That's all for the moment.